Howdy y'all, my name is Wesley Mathern, and this is reflection video number 4. We'll quick little intro of what we're going to be covering as core topics. We'll be covering the changes in thinking and philosophy during the 1900s in terms of urban planning, as cities went from industrial heartlands to top-down planning to decentralized human-focused designs, what caused these changes and how it affected planners, people, and society at large. The first source we'll be covering is a video by Average Man on the Bike, How Child Morality Sparked a Cycling Revolution. In post-war Europe, and what we'll be talking about, the Netherlands here, after World War II, we saw a lot of destruction, a lot of rebuilding, and they rebuilt on the principles of a lot of what we were seeing in American society at the time, the suburbia and the car central, and they made car culture a ideal of freedom and economic prosperity and post-war prosperity. And this was seen as a great thing, it was seen as the future, but what it resulted in was a loss of life that was a magnitude that is still ongoing in countries such as our own. Hundreds of children die every year from car crashes, from pedestrians being ran over, bikes being ran over. But in the Netherlands during the 70s, this sparked national outrage and grief. Schools had empty seats, dead children, and protests sparked, which were, as you see in the photo, flipping cars and stopping airports and pestering politicians. And this movement was called Stop the Kindermond. And what it resulted in was a change in priority for Netherlands civil engineers and politicians. And it created things like car-free Sundays, which made people go outside and see how much space and how much community that car-based infrastructure was taking away. And this rethinking and planning and prioritizing people instead of machines saw a massive change in the cultural values and society at large for the Netherlands.
Hi y'all, my name is Sky Eastridge. I'm going to be covering a few topics for Reflection 5. My first one is from week 9, Ebenezer Howard. Some context, this was written during the late 19th century when industrialization caused major urban crowding and poor living conditions in England. He was responding to the problems of both overcrowded, polluted cities and isolated, underdeveloped rural areas. His work laid the foundation for the Garden City. He represents this idea through the famous town-country magnet diagram. My three key concepts. So the magnet diagram, Howard describes three magnets that represent choices for people to live. The town represents industrial cities, country represents rural life, town country is Howard's ideal garden city. The garden city principles: planned, self-contained communities surrounded by green belts, balanced land use with housing, industry, and agriculture coexisting, population limited to around 30 to 32,000 to prevent overcrowding, cooperative land ownership, integration of green spaces, effective transportation and public amenities. Lastly, social and economic goals to reduce poverty and inequality by ending private land, encourage self-sufficiency, and improve health and happiness. My takeaways from this reading: urban problems can be solved through intelligent cooperative planning. The garden concept infused ideas like sustainable cities, green belts, and smart growth. Howard model represents human needs with environmental health and economic opportunity, and his ideas remain relevant for today for creating livable, sustainable urban spaces. Next, this is going to be an outside source, generating a vision for smart, sustainable cities of the future. My context: the article explores how urban areas can evolve into smart, sustainable cities, also known as SSCs, that use technology, data, and innovation. It responds to the growing challenges of urbanization, climate change, and resource limitation, emphasizing that the cities of the future must be intelligent, efficient, and equitable. My three key concepts: smart city versus sustainable. A smart city uses technology, sensors, and data to improve efficiency. Sustainable cities focus on environmental protection, social inclusion, and resource management. The core dimensions of smart, sustainable cities is going to be environmental sustainability, social sustainability, economic sustainability, and technological innovation. Urban planning for SSCs move from reactive to proactive data-driven planning, integrates smart infrastructure, energy grids, transport systems, water networks, etc., with green designs. My final takeaways: smart, sustainable cities are built on integration, not separation. Tech, environment, and society must all work together. The city of the future should be people-centered, using technology to improve quality of life for all residents. Success requires system thinking, connecting energy, housing, transportation, and governance. Community engagement and ethical use of technology are crucial for fairness and long-term success.
Howdy, my name is Alistair Jackson, and for one of the selected materials, I picked A Contemporary City by Le Corbusier, which in this article he proposed a complete redesign of urban life through order, efficiency, and geometry, which he begins with the idea of eliminating congestion through rational planning, replacing the chaos of industrial cities with structured systems, which his cities are built vertically, which increase density while also preserving light, air, and green space in the city. Streets are also engineered systems layered by function and technology rather than just random conspicuous spots across the city. And traffic is also organized in tiers, which are separated from heavy goods, local, and fast movement to prevent conflict throughout the city. And all mobility converges in one hub, which he sought to centralize transport through a unified station that integrates trains, subways, roads, and air travel, which finally Le Corbusier promotes geometry and standardization as the foundation of beauty and economy of the city, which he believed that to build in the open is to enlighten architecture with logic, sunlight, and meeting human needs. So Lloyd Wright's Broadacre City presents a radical alternative to the industrial city. So instead of dense urban cores, Wright envisioned a nation made up of self-sufficient homesteads where every family would own at least 1 acre of land. And his goal was to restore democracy and individuality through land ownership and architectural freedom. And he also believed that new technologies such as the automobile, telephones, radio, uh, they made centralized cities more obsolete, which these inventions he thought would allow people to live spread out, uh, would still keep everyone connected. And in on Broadacre City, architecture and landscape merged together. So homes, farms, schools, and even factories, they all form together and make it an organic, balanced environment rather than an artificial one. So the result was a vision of decentralized freedom where society thrives on independence, creativity, and harmony with nature. And his ideas still influence how we think about suburban and sustainable planning today. So for one of the outside resources, I picked the Resilient Metropolis, Planning in an Era of Decentralization by Thomas J. Fisenko. And one of the major concepts I picked up from his article was how it explored modern cities and how they are adapting to decentralized growth. It describes today's urban form as a hybrid of local and global networks, which are focused on resilience, flexibility, and equity. Rather than relying on a single city center, power and activity are spread through connected nodes, promoting sustainability and collaboration throughout the city. And when compared to Le Corbusier's A Contemporary City article, this article rejects centralized top-down planning and instead values diversity and adaptability over rigid order. But in contrast, it continues aspects of Lloyd Wright's Broadacre City by expanding decentralization but updating it with digital interconnection and human scale design. But overall, the Resilient Metropolis article shows how modern urban planning blends Wright's ideals of autonomy with the flexibility that Le Corbusier's models lacked, creating cities that can evolve and thrive amid modern complexity.
Hi again, Wesley III to give you all a conclusion. Well, we saw how the industrial city was rejected by Howard with his green city, and how his ideas of green cities were expanded upon by other urban planners into smart cities and sustainable cities, and how this urban planning was also even promoted by the contemporary city, and how top-down became a norm at this point. And then we saw that the top-down brought harmony, order, and like a well-balanced to the city, and then how later top-down design was rejected and for more human scale and human-based elements within designs. Because something very important to note is that these changes in philosophy weren't just by the actions of urban planners sitting in offices, writing things on paper, and rethinking about things. These really impacted real humans, as we saw in Stop the Kindlemons, and how the people and community that we're planning for should be involved in the design process, and their opinions should be included